Afternoon, everyone. We are Homeopathy United, and we are live today here to talk about cell salts and how they can help both you and your animals. And we're both in a little bit of a heat wave. Really grateful for the late summer weather. Allow me to introduce my partner, Dr. Alex.
So today we're going to talk about tissue salts or cell salts or Schussler salts or bioplasma. They are all the same thing. And it can get very confusing, but it's basically all the same thing. These are homeopathic preparations, but in a very low potency. So instead of 1 in 100, which usually are the homeopathic remedies that we use, which means that the remedies are diluted in 1 in 99, so 1 in 100. And if it is a 30C, it means that they were diluted 1 in 130 times. So basically you take one drop, you pick up the original mother tincture or original material, and you dilute it in 100, and this will be 1C. And then you take 1 ml of this solution and you further dilute in 99 ml, and it will be a 2C, and so on and so forth. And you have the 30C, the 200C, and then you go to 1,000 and it goes on. With the tissue salts, you have a next. All tissue salts come exactly in the same potency, and they are all in a 6x potency. And basically they were prepared in dilutions of 1 in 9. So it's a 10 dilution. So 6x, the original substance was diluted 6 times 1 in 10. And that's what the 6x stands for. Sometimes they use 6D. They use D for decimal, which again stands for 10. But the original and the most commonly used, I would say, which comes from Hahnemann time, he was using the Roman letters. So an X stands for 10, a C stands for 100, and an L stands for 50, and an M stands for 1,000. And that's how the potencies are known.
Identified.
Yes. Identified, known. Yeah. So tissue salts. For me, the best way to describe it is they are like homeopathic vitamins. So these, although they are prepared in an homeopathic way, they still contain material of the original substance that they were prepared from. The tissue salts are prepared by trituration. How do you say?
Yes, trituration. Yeah.
It's just my pronunciation. Sometimes, can
great.
be awkward. Because they are minerals. They are all minerals. So they are salts, which is usually a combination of 2 minerals. So we have the first one is calcium and fluoride. So we have a salt called calcium fluoride. So these tissue salts were prepared because they exist in our body, and they really help with the metabolism of the body, and they work on affinities. So you don't really use the laws of similars, is more on whatever is going on in the body. We go with tissue salts. I'm going to make a quick introduction here, and I think that they are fabulous because they are very easy to use. The reason why we decided to talk about them is because any layperson can use them and quite successful as long as they know what is their issue or the issue that needs to be addressed in the body. And there was a fabulous study done in India where there was a huge population of kids all undernourished and dying of starvation and malnutrition. And they divided the group in half, and half was given vitamins and calcium in material doses, and the other half were just treated with tissue salts. And the diet remained the same for both groups. And the ones treated with tissue salts had a much higher survival rate than the ones treated with the material doses. Actually, with material doses, they had a much higher death rate because the kids were so emaciated that once you gave, for instance, vitamin C in crude dose, they got a diarrhea. And in these stages, a diarrhea is enough to deplete someone that is already very depleted. So this study was really fabulous to show how helpful the tissue salts are. So they supply a small amount of the material dose. So it's really important that you take it 3-4 times a day, that you take it according to the instructions, because you also want, they have an energetically base, but they also have a material base. Right. So the correct way to take them is to pop the dry pills in your mouth
without touching them,
and take them 3-4 times a day, right. Or according with the instructions on the bottle, because some pharmacies do the tablets bigger, others do the pellets much smaller. So just read the label and go with what it's on the label.
Well, and thank you for all of that information, Dr. Alex. I think that for those of you who have used homeopathy for any length of time, you are somewhat familiar with the cell salts or tissue salts, as we refer to them. Dr. Schussler had used them in the homeopathic way and treated people just with cell salts back in the 1800s, and cured a lot of cases. He recognized the depletion in people's cells in their system, and with frequent repetitive doses had great results in treating people. Today, we're going to talk about the first 6. There are technically 13. There are 12 individual cell salts, and these cell salts all appear in our blood, in our tissue, in the makeup of all bodies, plants, people, animals. And we decided that we needed to cut it in half somewhere, but as I said, there are 12 cell salts, technically 13, because there is something called bioplasma, which has all 12 in that formula. So we were going to start today with number 1 to make it easy to remember. And if I can find number 1, I will absolutely grab it. There it is. So calcium, or calc fluor, you will hear people refer to. Yeah. And you'll see a couple of pictures here. One of an x-ray of a horse hoof, and also of some teeth.
So calc fluor, it has a big affinity to the bones and to the elastic tissue in the body, like tendons, like varicose veins. It's excellent to strengthen the bones, but funnily enough, it can also dissolve growth, exotosis, growth in the bones,
like bone spurs and
like
ganglion
bone spurs,
cysts,
yeah, and ganglion cysts, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's excellent for that. It strengthens the enamel in your teeth as well. And yes, and so if people suffer from osteoporosis, you know, calc floor will be one of the tissue salts that
To reach for.
to reach for. We're gonna talk about them independently, but actually they are sold, at least from Helios and I guess from other pharmacies, in combinations, not
Yes.
of the 12. I mean, the 12, okay, they do exist, but they are sold in combinations of 4 or sometimes 5 with specific affinities. So for
Right, specific
bones,
conditions, yes.
and for bones, calc fluor will be in that formula always present.
And calc fluor is found actually in the surface of the bones, in the enamel of the teeth, in the elastic fibers, and in the cells of the epidermis. So it's, when you think about somebody that's depleted, like you said, with osteoporosis, calc fluor can really make a big difference. I've personally used it most often when addressing people with teeth issues, and it is known to assist in healing cavities. I've seen it work in small children with their the first year of their teeth or their baby teeth, and seen calc fluor really be successful in that treatment. So number 2 is somewhere in here. I think it's this one, calc phos.
Yes, so calc phos, it's a combination of calcium and phosphorus. Again, massive affinity for the bones. It actually helps to, it's very important. I always prescribe it when people have line fractures. So not a big fracture, but
hairline fracture, I think is what you mean.
Yeah, hairline fracture, and or they fracture the bone, and then the bone has a tendency to keep breaking exactly on the same spot. So basically, it strengthens the knitting of the bone, of the two pieces, so makes the scar really strong. So if the bone will break again, definitely it will not break on that place. Again, for osteoporosis, very good to strengthen the bones. I never used it for growing pains as a tissue salt, but it's spectacular homeopathically if the symptoms match, and it has to be the totality of the symptoms that the child is expressing, not, you know, in homeopathy, we never prescribe based on one symptom only. But if the child is constitutionally a calcaria phosphoric and it has growing pains, is fantastic.
This is great support. Yes. Yeah.
It's really good.
It's interesting. It talks also about, in Schussler's book, it talks about curing spasms and pains caused by anemia. Such pains are accompanied by formication or a sensation of numbness or cold. So, you know, again, just another piece to know that having the cell salts, having all 12 of the cell salts, it's, when you open my medicine cabinet, all 12 cell salts in there. That's where I keep all of mine, because I know in the middle of the night, if I'm having leg cramps or if I have my shoulder lock up because I did too much shoveling the day before or what have you, I know right where they are and I know which ones to grab. So let's see, number 3 is calcium sulfate. And I'm gonna, hey, look at that. I got it on the first try. So yeah. in this picture, it's kind of difficult to see because it doesn't stand out very well. There is a cat with a very big cyst on its head. It was hard to find animal pictures with cysts that weren't really nasty. This was the closest one I could find that was kind of presentable. But you can see that this is almost the size of a golf ball that has grown on the front of this cat's head. And Calc Sulf is very good for acne, pimples, sore throats, congestion, and a tendency to produce cysts and boils. And cysts are different than a ganglion cyst or a bone spur. And can you talk a little bit about that, Dr. Alex, the difference between those things?
So in Calc Sulf, usually the cyst is going to be softer because it's like a boil. And it has material inside, so pus or basically pus. It's spectacular. It's very, very good for acne that has. So the thing we have to remember with calc sulfuric or calc sulf is that the discharges are yellow. So if you think about pus, most of the time is yellow. And when you have acne that has, the pimples are quite big and they have a head and the head is yellow with pus, if you crush calc sulf and put a bit of water and you make like a paste and you apply it on the acne, it really, really helps with the
With
heads
the outbreak,
and
the breakout.
with the outbreak, and it helps dry the pimples in a very fast way.
But very gentle. So it's not that it is
Oh no, it's not
suppressing.
abrasive. No,
Right.
neither suppressing or abrasive like acid that that most of the remedies use. No, nothing like that. But calc sulf has the ability of drying yellow pus, so it's perfect for acne and pimples or ear discharges that are yellow. Again, calc sulf is a very good one to go even. And the beauty of these remedies is you can give them in combination with the homeopathic remedy,
Right.
because the homeopathic remedy is
it doesn't interfere.
100% energy, and this one is much more material. It also has energy, but the potencies are so far apart that one does not interfere with the other, so it can complement nicely.
And oftentimes when we're working on a case, we will recommend a cell salt or two, or even the bioplasma, the combination of 12, because that's accessible in a lot of the health food stores, just to boost someone's system or an animal system. And with the depletion that goes on in a herd, or with all the heat that we've had, you've heard us talk about belladonna, you've heard us talk about different remedies to put in their trough to kind of revive them. The other thing that you can add to that is to get the cell salts into them, and bioplasma it's a great catch-all. Dr. Alex said initially at the beginning of our conversation today, it's best to take these dry. They dissolve instantly. They're not like a lot of the pellets that you get that are hard. So you want to try to avoid touching them, because sometimes they'll melt or fall apart right in your hands. But the dry dose is important because the potency is so low, and you do want to get that into their system. So the next remedy is Ferrum Phos. Look at that, I got it right on the first try. So you'll see in this picture, there is a piglet kind of laying on the ground. Just thinking about fever, when an illness first comes on, when you don't have a really clear picture, but you see an animal that's depleted. This is a fantastic cell salt because it carries the oxygen into the blood. It reoxygenates, and it supports congestion and inflammation. And what do you think of when you get sick? It's all about inflammation, the fever, and also sprains and strains, which is the picture up in the corner of the dog getting its paw wrapped. Dr. Alex, can you share more about Ferrum Phos and what your experience has been with that?
I find it fantastic in cases of an anemia. And usually my patients that have female, and not so much animals though, but female patients that have heavy periods, and they lose a lot of blood, and they become with very lethargic and low blood pressure and tendency to anemia. They are on Ferrum Phos 4 times a day, at least through while they are on
Their
their
cycle.
period.
Yeah.
It's very, very good. I love this.
Very
This is
supportive.
one very supportive, very commonly used.
It's interesting. They talk about, in Schussler's book, they talk about fresh wounds and contusions and sprains as it removes hyperemia. And so again, it's one of the first cell salts that I often reach for when something has gone wrong. If you don't have a super clear picture, it's always good to start with Ferrum Phosphate, especially if you don't have the bioplasma. So that's number 4. Let's take a look at number 5 is Kali Mur, another favorite. And what's the favorite color of Kali Mur?
It's white.
It's white.
So
the picture didn't change. Isn't that interesting? Yesterday, when we were picking pictures, we had a fantastic picture for the Kali Mur, but not the donkey. The donkey's a good picture, all about sneezing and swollen glands, and this was really about sore throat. I couldn't get a picture of inside of a donkey's throat. I can't imagine that they would be really good at saying if you asked. You'd have to catch them just at the right moment while they were going. The picture that's in the upper right hand corner kind of blends in, but it was my attempt at a middle ear inflammation, especially with colds and coughs and bronchitis and that sort of thing. But going back to the white, talk about that, Dr. Alex.
Okay, so you think about Kali Mur when you see white coming out of the nose or a ear discharge. If you see whiteness, it can be allergies. It can be a really, really bad cold. It can be, so if the snot is white, Kali Mur is your choice of tissue salts, as well as in the ears discharge. Some ears discharges are yellow, some are green, some are blood tinged, and some are white. And when I say white, is milky white. Is not. Sometimes people get confused because white, they think white is transparent. No,
right. No,
it has to look like milk, milky white. So that's your choice of tissue salts. Or even if the phlegm, if you have a very bad cough and you have quite a lot of phlegm and it's white, thick and white, Kali Mur is your
where you want to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic cell salt. And so that leads us to number 6, Kali Phos. And it's this guy right here. When I found this picture, it made me think of Sun. It kind of looks like her. A little bit.
Sun has curly hair.
Yeah, she's got a little bit longer, yeah. So the Kali Phos cell salts really support the nervous system health, headaches of a nervous origin, like you're stressed out about something, like going live every Thursday. I probably should have taken some of this a few minutes ago, trying to get the pictures ready. And that nervousness can also lead to sleeplessness, anxiety, weariness from just overtaxing. If you're stressed about school, this is actually a really good cell salt to start kids who are going back to school on, because there is some level of anxiety that goes with the excitement of going back into school after being away for the summer. Dr. Alex, talk a little bit about how you might have used this with animals, though.
Well, actually, I'm not going to say that I used a lot with animals, to be honest with you. But
okay.
On the same note of school,
Yes.
it's fabulous. And I use it a lot for exams. Kids that are very
Yes.
stressed with exams. And I will never forget, I prescribed it a few years ago to a girl that she was a teenager and she was doing her GCSEs, if I'm not mistaken. And it was so funny because the mom got in touch with me because she was really stressed out and she wouldn't sleep and so anxious she was about the exams and studying and this and that and the other. And then so she took Kali Phos, and I recommend taking, when you take Kali Phos, to take it in a bit of lukewarm water. So before bedtime, and then I said, give it immediately when she wakes up. And then I told her, you can take it again, take it in your bag and take 2 pellets just before the exam. And she was so sweet because after the exam, the mom called me and she said what the daughter has said. And she said, Mom, it was really, really weird because all my friends were panicking before the exam. And I wanted to panic with them because we were all going to get into the exam, but I couldn't panic. I was so calm. I wanted to panic because they were all panicking, and I felt really bad because they were all panicking.
Oh,
and although I wanted to panic, I couldn't panic. So
that's fantastic. Yeah, they
really
should probably spray this then in the room before they do exams, because that is such a stressful thing for kids. I wonder if with something like this with animals, obviously, if you have an anxious animal, this would likely be a good thing to give them on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
It's contained in the cells of the brain, the nerves, the muscles, and the blood, as also in the plasma and other intercellular fluids. So it's a really important cell salt to have at your ready, and I wonder if it wouldn't make sense to, like, let's say, you're going to take your horse to a show. You're going to, whether you're riding them or you're just showing them, what have you, or if you know that you're taking your animals to the fair, like we've got all of our fairs are coming up. They've actually started already. And I wonder if it wouldn't make sense to start the animals on this a week or so before you're going to take them and put them in an environment where they are out of their element and they have new animals and new people and new things to deal with, even if it is for a short period of time, because some people will trailer their horses on the same day to a show if they're only going to go and do one thing. But with the cattle and the horses that go to the fair that we attend every year, it's the largest fair in New England, I think, and it's one of the oldest. The animals stay all week and they're there for 10 or 11 days. They come in before the fair starts and they don't leave typically until after. You have animals that are doing pulling, animals that are really pushing their bodies to perform in environments where they're not there familiar every day. Yeah. It's one thing when you bring them out into the field and they're doing their work and they're really good at knowing that that's what that is. And they know when they're going to be fed and they know what to expect and they know when they're going to go back in their stall or back in the barn. But when they're in a situation that takes them out of their element. Something like this might really be helpful. And the bioplasma, absolutely, hands down.
So Kali Phos as well, you know, when you buy animals and you introduce them into new environments, you know, even with chicken, new flocks, the transport, the arrival, the settling in, sometimes packing orders, all the situations you can think that the animal might get stressed. This is a fantastic tissue salt to go to.
That's a really great point. We have geese here on the farm, and a couple of them are going to a new home in the next day or two. So I'm thinking I'm going to start them on Kali Phos now before they transition, because that's going to be a big move for them. So we did have a question. Somebody was kind enough to send in a comment, and they asked which cell salts will help support healing and regenerate circulation in a laminitis attack in a horse. And I think that you've got an article around laminitis. Do you talk about cell salts in that article as well?
Do I have an article on laminitis?
I was thinking you did. No?
No, I have on Cushing's.
Cushing's. Okay, that's one I was thinking. Cushing's. So do any cell salts come to mind around laminitis?
Well, with laminitis, I would definitely have the horse on constitutional treatment. I mean, on homeopathic treatment. But if you want to help, I would definitely put it on Ferrum Phos, because it's all about inflammation, and Ferrum Phos is great. And then, yes.
That's so the one.
I would put him on Ferrum Phos, and then I would put him, of course, mixed with the Ferrum Phos. I would put Calc Phos and Calc Fluor to help to strengthen the bones and the tendons around it, and probably silica. But these three are the most crucial.
Okay, so it was number 1, Calc Fluor, number 2, Calc Phos, and number 4, Ferrum Phos.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Hopefully that answers your question, Regina. And if you want some, details with regard to frequency and that sort of thing, by all means, reach out or share something on the page. And all of these slides will be included after we sign off. I'll be sure to add these into the group. And next week, we're going to talk about the other 6 cell salts. And we'll also talk about bioplasma. So Kali Sulf, Mag Phos, Nat Mur, Nat Phos, Nat Sulf, and Silica will be next Thursday. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for your patience, and thanks for sticking with us and for sharing the cases and questions. And we look forward to connecting with you next week. Hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Bye-bye, everyone.